Yeah, hi everyone. It's Billy here again from 47 Wolves. All I am. Hope you're all well. Thank you very much for joining us. I've got the wonderful Martin back from Arcanum Vita. How are you, Martin?
Yeah, good Billy. How you going? Thanks for having
Yeah.
us back and good to
Oh,
chat to you again.
always great to chat, mate. Yeah. So we're predominantly talking about the is it the Libra new moon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just on the
Uh,
third, we had the new moon in Libra. Yeah, so like at 10 degrees of Libra. It was an eclipse as well, so
the
pretty
solar
potent.
eclipse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a new moon solar eclipse, and sort of, I suppose, a bit of a loose one, like in the sense it wasn't a total eclipse, but it's still again quite partial. The node's at 6, and the new moon was at 10 degrees, so they were quite close, but not full. But still quite a shifter. Like a solar eclipse is different to lunar eclipses. Like that, they're like a reset. They bring new things into our life. It's an ending of old patterns. Like it's literally throwing the trip switch in a way, and rebooting a certain aspect or a certain area of our life, up. So yeah, it's quite potent. I don't know about you, Billy, but I felt it quite potently. It was quite a heavy, intense would be the word for it.
Intense, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It has
how'd you
been
go?
been an
Yeah,
intense vibe out there at the moment. Yeah,
yeah,
it's funny, sort of. We've all got stuff going on internally, but yeah, just to see the widespread community and globally as
oh,
well, there seems to be a fair
yeah.
bit of intensity and
Building, isn't
you're
it?
building up.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can feel that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, like I mean, Pluto's finally gone retrograde back into Capricorn. It's at 29 Capricorn now. So like, we're in this sort of last throes of, the transformational process of the Capricornian reality, I suppose, is going on. So like once Pluto moves out of 29 Capricorn back into Aquarius, it's properly back into Aquarius. So like this month of October, which it actually, by the way, it moves into Aquarius proper in November. So, like this month, October, and this new moon that we've had is kind of the last culminating phase of this, since 2007, this transformative process of our world, our mind, the structures in our world, the governances in our world. I guess, national borders, national, identities, like the whole sort of, global structure is in this final process of guess intensified transformation at this time. And there'll be, I'd imagine, as it moves into Aquarius, a sort of a profound period of release would come with that. But it's been sort of over the last year or so, it's been kind of in, touching into Aquarius and coming back into Capricorn. But this is its last throes, if you like, and 29 degrees of Capricorn kind of it symbolically represents what they, like executive power, or the hidden power and the hidden structures behind things
Right.
are really sort of being tested, or it's brought to light even, like you probably see in the news and all that. Like there's all this, mud coming to light on, hidden tyranny, hidden power structures, corruption, like just attempts to maintain subversive control, and all that sort of thing is really in the spotlight at the moment collectively. But on an individual level too, like I think we're, Capricorn meaning ruling mind, and the structures in our life. So there's probably this, I don't know, like I feel, overall it's this sort of breakdown of sorts, and bringing a lot of our old past stuff to light, and looking at, the structures that we kind of stood on, and the world we thought what was the world, and all these sort of things are really being brought out into the open. Even little things where you go, wow, that's right, I remember that circumstance. I can't believe that period of my life actually conditioned me to think this way and be this way and assume that life is this way. And wow, all of a sudden it's now been reframed or put into new perspective. So like, yeah, it's quite intense in the way that I think that real plutonic force at the moment is very front and center, and very, kind of doing its last work, if you like, on
Yeah.
sort of
Is that
not
is
only
that
bringing stuff
generally
up.
how it works, Martin? With when you're at the end of the throws, does it gain in intensity before moving into the next
Yeah,
phase? Yeah.
it's whatever hasn't been done. So like, if work's been done, like if things have been brought to light and renovated and changed and transformed, life goes on, and from there, Pluto essentially its job is to empower or bring things back into a greater expression of power. So if there's any sort of old, outdated structures that need to be reworked and brought into a new perspective, Pluto will do that. It'll challenge it. It'll bring any rot that's involved to light. It'll break it down, and then we'll be given a release of new energy, and then new things can emerge from there. So if that process is working well, no major crisis. It's just a process of gradual transformative upgrade. But if there's things that are resistant, like if there's things that really haven't let go and they desperately need to, then the last throw, it's there's no escaping plutonic force. So if it's entrenched and it's sort of resistant to the modes of operation of transformation and I guess right use of power and those types of things, it's going to come to a head. It's like a boil,
Yes.
like if there's junk in there, it's going to be brought to the surface so that it can be popped and cleansed, I
And
guess.
it's
Yeah.
probably fair to say the more resistance to letting that go increases the intensity, and like you say, it's eventually going to pop like a boil, and
Yeah, it will. Yeah,
that'll
come
be
to
the case individually as well as, and we're seeing it,
oh,
like you said before, with globally a lot of events
yeah,
coming around at the moment, whether all the
that's it.
structures and what we know or what we've known as our truth, in inverted
Yeah,
commas, is maybe not the case, and all our belief
no,
systems might
that's
blow a
it.
few fuses.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's an inescapable realization of the fallacies that are our world, I guess. I mean, it's really interesting, Billy. Like there's this I've noticed with the last few moons, like probably over the last 3 months, there's, if you look at the degrees and things like that, there's this recurring theme of degree that kind of keeps coming in. And it's it's this idea, it's just from a symbolic point of view, but it's based on a degree. It's the fallacy of totalitarianism is the symbol, like if you sort of look at the symbol, and it's this idea that, like, I suppose in Star Wars, in a way, like how Leia says to that general on the Death Star, the tighter you squeeze, you'll realize the more you squeeze, the more they'll slip through your fingers. Like it's that realization that centralization of control in any form, is not going to work. It's not appropriate. Like the more you try and centralize and bring everything to a particular frame of reference and make everything flow down or onwards from that, the more futile that becomes. So like there's this idea of this need for differentiation and this need for individualization, and it's recognizing that even on a personal level that we can't sort of have it from our perspective. The world isn't, we're not the center of the universe, in other words. And like, I suppose if you look at it globally, like from a collective point of view, it's inescapable, the realization that there's this, overarching sense of tyranny, or this overarching sense of, totalitarianism is at work in the sort of governance ideologies of the world, like just I suppose the global government or centralization of power on one hand is being pushed and being sort of, it's this need to sort of bring it down to, controlling the masses through, technology, or through controlling the masses through centralization of power of government. But really, at the end of the day, the more that takes place, the more that fuels the spark for individualized human emergence and individuality and those types of things. So it's sort of, yeah, it really is this last ditch realization or process that shows those two polarities. Like, on one hand, we have to be individuals, a mass of unique, different individuals, but that will take place in the face of a ever-pressing centralization of corrupt, tyrannical power. Like it's that idea. But again, that degree is very much active again in this new moon too. Like it's sort of, it's right there, saying, hey guys, differentiate, individuate, look past your own perspective, like, and that's not to say your perspective is good, bad, or indifferent, but don't be locked into defending your position. Don't be locked into, trying to make it all fit from that one point of reference, which, government, like powers that be, are trying to do that as well, like, and have been for quite a few years now, so, and that's the Pluto and Capricorn giving way to Pluto in Aquarius, because Pluto in Aquarius essentially is the power comes from the bottom up, rather than in Capricorn, power is a centralized hierarchical power from the top down. And so, like, that's this, evolutionary force that's taking place. And whether that be on the level of government or right down to our individual level of life, we are going to have to sort of come to terms with allowing others to be themselves, we get to be ourselves too. It's that idea, I guess.
Yeah,
And
no,
in that comes the release, I
that
suppose.
makes complete sense. And
Yeah.
just on the solar eclipse, you were saying,
Yeah.
is that intent, like, is that amplifying all the energies from the Libra new moon? Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
It does. Well, it really, really brings it to a crescendo, like it sort of it focalizes it into a point of reset, So, like, yeah, the new moon's at 10 degrees of Libra. 10 degrees is a sort of a structural Capricornian degree. So I guess that's why I jumped into that Pluto and Capricorn vibe, because it really does resonate at that level of structure and, things like that. But Libra is essentially harmony and balance and aesthetics and relationships and things like that. So, having an eclipse in that sort of area of energy, it sort of suggests that there's a really sort of, you know, pivotal reboot at the level of our relationships, what gives us balance, how we balance our life, our sense of what's fair and just, and that sort of process of equilibrium in our life, and the structures that represent that are getting a real sort of jolt, if you like, to kind of bring us into a new awareness around harmony and balance and aesthetics and things like that. So,
Beautiful. Yeah.
to me, this is a time where circumstance will lead us to find what works for us better.
Yes,
What
and what
better
works for
way.
you might not
Yeah,
align with me, but there's no right or wrong or indifferent, like you
yeah,
said before.
exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
for us to be open to that, and
yeah,
to not be locked in or fixated on what our perspectives are being the absolute truth.
that's it.
Yeah, and knowing that someone with a differing opinion or different way of life are free to do and think the way they feel is right for them. And yeah, rather than what you're saying before with the government, and we are seeing that build intensity, and it's probably been behind the scenes over the last however long, multiple decades of subtle control, and it's definitely amplified over the last 3 or 4 years in particular, and probably since 2007, it's been
Yeah,
building. So that's all coming to a head, it feels like, and that's where that boil popping, that intensity, the stronger the
yeah,
governments are trying to hold on to that control. We're seeing, the words that we've never heard of before in the last few years coming out, like misinformation, and trying to
mm,
control the social media and internet, and what we are allowed to say, what we're not allowed to say. You will think
yeah,
this way, you will think that way, and if you don't,
that's
then
it.
you're wrong.
Yeah,
They're really trying to feed that into our mindset, and
that's
or
it.
from my perspective, I've noticed that. And again, we can all deal with that individually and receive that
Yeah,
as we will. But it's I think, like, from what you're saying, it's even more important with the Libra energies, and that harmony of being able to see things for what they are from our perspective, but also know that what we feel is what's the truth today, may well be, and be flexible enough to and not to be too rigid, to say, okay, well, I didn't think that was the truth, but maybe, yeah. So what is the
yeah,
truth?
that's it.
What does
Yeah,
truth even
exactly.
mean?
And yeah, that's right. What is truth? What's our truth? Like, is it being impressed upon us, or are we being idealistic about life? Like, I mean, how much of life is our response to external impression, versus how much of our life is just our own sort of self-propagating delusion, so to speak. Like, I think, if you look at the Libra moon in particular, like, Libra rules, or Venus rules Libra, and then if you think of the higher octave of Venus, is you've got Neptune, right? And so, like, in a way, if we look at our times as well, Neptune has been in Pisces since about 2012. So as Pluto is reaching its finality in Capricorn, Neptune's reaching its finality through the sign of Pisces, which is its home sign, you know, where it loves to be. And so, in a way, like if we look at, the world that we're in today, and whether or not this is conscious or not, but like if you think of, you know, reality and totalitarianism or control or just censorship and all those types of things, Neptune has this sort of influence of unification, like on a broader scale. Like on one hand, Neptune, the world we live in today, like being in Pisces, the field of illusion or propaganda or misinformation or just even suggestion, hypnosis, the potential for that is huge with Neptune being in the sign of Pisces, because it's this sort of boundaryless kind of energy that makes us super sensitive and super impressionable. And the idea of it being at the end of the cycle, we're sort of in this world at the moment where there's this overwhelming drive or urge for unification, or to be all one, like. And so if you think of Pisces and Neptune, it's the great unifying sort of energy that at the end of every cycle, everything coalesces back into the sort of divine cosmic ocean of life, so that in Aries it can reemerge, reborn or renewed. So we're in this globally, we're in this sort of coalescing end of day, like end of cycle, not end of days, God, but end of cycle type energy where the individual expression is being constantly eroded or dematerialized, so that we're all sort of in this sort of cosmic soup of undefined togetherness, right? And so if you sort of feel into that, like, when it comes to censorship and misinformation and this and that, like what's becoming incredibly more apparent to me over the recent times is that even to say something or be something, if you have a point of view, or if you try to assert yourself in any way, or even just stand for anything, that's it's not allowed. Like you can't do that. And like it's almost like the world is reinforcing this inability to be anyone. Like, I mean, you can't be a self. You can't actually, have this individuality or sense of self, because the forces of Neptune in Pisces just has it that we're all this unified collective one. And the downside of that is that, the powers that be, or the misdirected sort of material level, strategist would then run with that and go, well, I have to make everyone a subservient to this unified numerical system, where you're not a person, or you're not this or that. You're just a part of this system. And if you try and individuate in any way, shape, or form, you're going to be, vilified or pointed out or extricated, because you can't be anyone. You're part of the sort of communistic, I suppose, or collective mass. And that's the tendency, I think, as we find ourselves at the end of Neptune in Pisces. The world is sort of either deluded, hypnotized, lost, kind of disorientated, and even more so, just unable to be anyone or anything. And so, this real lack of differentiation has kind of put us in a bit of a kind of a disorientated, despairing, if in a way, almost a sense of despair for lack of direction or lack of purpose or lack of any clear form. But I think that's, in a way, that's part of the zeitgeist energy that we find ourselves in, with Neptune ending its period in Pisces. Does it, you know what I mean, Billy? Like, does
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and from a perspective, like an individual perspective, it's probably even more paramount now, that we do dive in within ourselves and have a look at within introspectively, of
mm,
letting go of our stuff and who we are and what we thought was the truth, and then by being comfortable or being in balance internally, then that allows
yeah,
us to see everyone's viewpoint. The other thing I want to touch on was the unification of people around the world, like the 7-8
yeah,
billion people around.
mm,
For the powers that be that want us to all think the same, that's coming from one angle,
yeah,
but also what I feel, I don't know if just from an energetic point of view, is that there's more and more people starting to realize that and empower themselves and
Yeah,
have an understanding. I'm in quite a few groups where the love of that is there's such a love and gratitude and respect for each other, yet we're all
yeah,
walking different paths. We all have different viewpoints, but there's an allowance within that that allows each individual to still maintain who they are. And
that's
that's
it.
so liberating and powerful because outside of those groups that I'm in, where we hold ceremony and do things, and
Yep.
that seems to be increasing. Where outside of that, in your, you know, what we know as society and watching the news and blah blah blah, is that they're trying to push us to think the same. And does that make sense? Like
Yep.
from a,
Yeah, it does, Billy.
I love
Like
that
to
we're
summarize
all.
every,
I love that we're all
yeah,
in love and in gratitude for each other. That's unification. That's how it should be working. And
that's
I
right.
believe
Yeah,
it's, yeah,
there's a there's a difference between unification and conformity. Like
yes,
yeah, like I mean, we can all be absolutely individualistic, but work for a common unified purpose, rather than being a mindless, homogenized, massive, undifferentiated beings that have to conform to a defining structure. And like
yes,
that's the stark difference. Like, and in many ways, probably to sort of clarify that Neptune in Pisces thing, that is the defining difference between say a Piscean Neptune in Pisces type reality, where we are nobody but all part of the same collective mind, versus the Aquarian mentality, which is I am absolutely me and you're absolutely you, and that in its own right has its own beauty and strength. And together, that realization of difference is what unifies us in a common shared goal. And
beautiful.
and that's the humanity principle, like, and
Yeah.
that's
And
what's
do you see that, Martin, as we move, as I think you said, Pluto's moving out of Capricorn into the Aquarius? Is that the sort of energies you're talking about?
That's yeah. Essentially, that's what's coming up. Like, it really is the time now. The preparation. If you even look at this new moon, it's a very preparatory. I feel very preparatory for the time to come. Like, I mean, by looking at an eclipse in Aries, Libra, that's really about myself versus other. Like, who am I in relation to other? And it really kind of has Mercury tucked in there. So my thoughts, my intentions, what balances me, what provides me stability and security. But like moving forward, as Pluto does get into Aquarius, like the power or the mind, the collective, I guess the collective will, which is Pluto, that's going to be driven from an Aquarian point of view, and rather than a Capricornian point of view. So the inbuilt tendency over the last, say, since 2007, for the will to coalesce around structure and hierarchy, and power has been hierarchy, power has been governance. So the collective appreciation has operated through this perceived Capricornian outlook, whereas in Aquarius, it's the same will and the same fundamental evolutionary drive is going to be Aquarian, which is humanitarian in its highest expression. It's humanitarian, it's futuristic, it's collective, as in not conformist, but collective, as in we can specialize and bring our own unique specialities to the group. But at the same time, it recognizes the individual, it recognizes liberty, such principles as liberty, freedom, things like that are very paramount to the Aquarian mindset, whereas Capricorn is hive mind. It is that mind that we all share, and because we share that same mind, productivity comes through that hive mind. Even the shape of Capricorn is hexagonal. Like, it's
Wow.
sort of
Okay.
symbolically. So like, there's this movement from hive mind to kind of circuitry architecture. Like, it's this sort of Uranian mindset, which has more of a, I guess, a yeah, different, very different. How would I describe it? Like, without sort of getting too hardcore, but it's very different to the Capricornian mindset, and it comes from the bottom up rather than the top down.
Yes.
Like, but it is still Saturnian in that, when with freedom, Saturn still rules co-rules Aquarius, but Uranus is its sort of new ruler. So where it brings two polarities together into a unified state of consciousness, and in a way, Venus is the one of the higher expressions of Aquarian sort of, I guess, Aquarian energy at work. But like where it comes together is that the individual in its freedom must have responsibility. So, it's that self responsibility and that self stabilizing and self governance, and sort of it's when we take responsibility for ourselves, we create our own freedom. So I suppose that moving away from dependence on governance gives us liberty as well. And so you can sort of see it like as the wake up call comes in, it's like, oh my God, like they've got me, I'm totally enmeshed in this hive mind. But at the end of the day, how did I get enmeshed in this hive mind? Well, where am I handing my responsibility over? Where am I handing, my responsibility in the way things, go? Where am I just giving that over? Where can I be more responsible? So, things like rather than get chopped up about the corporations, start shopping locally, start supporting your own groups and networks, start supporting, be more Aquarian in your, I suppose your ideology alignments even too. Like hang around basically people that share your mindset, and work together rather than sort of find yourself homogeneously conforming to a I don't know, a corporate designed think tank based mindset. Like and that will become more and more evident because I suppose if you look at the timing of it too, like Pluto moves into Aquarius as Neptune moves into Aries. So, like, where we get this individualized spirit of Aquarius emerging, Neptune's going to come out of this, unified, nameless, faceless, embroiled sense of I am not anyone and I must be what they tell me, into Aries, which is, I am, here is my ideology, here is my belief, here is who I am, this is where I'm going. So there's a fantastic ideological shift coming next year. And this, moons like this one, which sort of bring up and purge our old attachments, our old dependencies, and even our old resentments, getting really brought to light. In many ways, it's just setting us up and probably bringing in opportunities and people and connections, and with it the emphasis on how important they are into our life moving forward, so that we can really embody this Aries Aquarian sort of ideologically fueled drive towards individuality and humanity. Hopefully,
Yes,
that's the
yeah,
theory.
yeah,
Yeah, so coming
yeah,
down the
and
road.
the irony really from with what we're seeing and what we have seen in the past and still now with the that government control of our mindset is they're trying to create unity and in many parts of the world it's happening, but I've seen over the last number of years, Martin, is this it's actually created a disconnect. So
Mm,
yes, we are. Well, in general terms, people are united as far as they listen to the same news and they conform, like you said, and think the way they're told to think. But that
yeah,
disconnection to each other, and what you said beautifully there is, shop locally, find people around you that enhance who you are and
mm,
love who you are and allow you to be your true self
yep,
and if you can't just be your true self anyway, dive deep,
that's it.
find out who you
Yeah,
are, and try to work out
exactly.
where it's all going. I noticed that Libra is the sign of justice and balance as well, so that influence is coming in.
Yes. It's going to bring that to, like to the fore. Like, I mean, in a way, with with the energy of Libra, it's I guess it emphasizes diplomacy, it emphasizes harmony, it emphasizes I guess our fundamental sort of balance, if you like. Justice is in there because by virtue of Libran energy, it sort of holds this sort of centralized balance and poise. So whatever's not right or whatever's not working really can't sustain itself from a more centralistic approach. So it sort of brings things out that really can't, or that might be operating from an inefficient perspective or an unjust perspective. Like hopefully, I still aren't quite sure if the real injustices get balanced at times, but like if it sort of sets us up more and more and more to be more orientated towards our own point of balance. And like in many ways, like one of the things with Libran, with a Libran moon, it's going to highlight how we can become more efficient, or how our operations or our daily dealings, whether what imbalances they contain, or what injustices they contain, or what changes can we make to streamline our life so that we are more efficient. Like, I mean, it's where in Libra we might catch a cold or get crook because we've realized that we're burning the candle at both ends, and it's time to restock and reorganize and become a little bit more aligned with what works for us. But on the other hand, too, we might be drawn into sort of appreciating more what we truly appreciate, and be drawn to the aesthetics of what makes us feel good and what we like, and therefore that gives us harmony, that gives us poise, that gives us balance. So there's the attraction to become more involved in that, or just being around people that actually give you true quality relationship, or realizing where in our relationships we might be not being appreciated as well as we could be, and how much we're actually filling in the gaps or filling in the silences so that nobody feels out of whack, but in doing so putting ourselves out of balance. So in a way, Libra, the lesson of Libra is basically one of poise and pause, and learning not to speak, learning to just hold your peace, and sometimes, you know, it's letting the chips fall where they may,
Yeah,
letting it go, and
because we
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a sense. That resonates. Of just like with the justice and balance, is what I was thinking about, was the yeah, being able to understand all sides and
Mm.
have that perspective. And one thing we've become in society is very reactive. Like we'll see
Yeah.
something or an event, and we'll completely go straight into judgment based on what our perception of truth is, and what our perception of justice is, and we really don't know what's going on. So it's a good time to pull back, get that holistic or overview perspective,
Yeah.
and then I know from my own personal journey, I'm finding the less I'm allowing myself to go into judgment, and
Yeah.
being able to see all sides, and not necessarily judge for someone for being right or wrong in their
Yeah.
perspective. And then doing that within myself as well.
Yeah.
That's that internal judgment that we all do on each
Yeah.
other, and self criticize, all that.
Yep.
Just that allowance, and allowing, okay, well, I did this and I did it with the best intention. Okay, it didn't work out. Past me might have said, "Oh, geez, I stuffed up there," or go into self criticism, and I've made mistakes, and this is wrong. What I did was
Yep.
wrong. No, what I did was the best I did for that time, and that
Yes.
decision I made. And therefore, if you allow yourself to do that, then have that fresh perspective about others when they're making decisions, and not completely go into judgment on every little thing. And I noticed that. Yeah, there's this sort of polarity or duality there, that there's still a lot of people still in that Capricornian judgment,
Mm. Yeah.
right, your way or my way or the highway sort of thing,
That's it.
and
Very
us and
fixed.
them,
Yeah.
where we can look at each other's decisions and go, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Okay, how did you
Yeah.
come about that? And actually get to learn and know where they're coming from. And you may end
So,
up not agreeing entirely because you're coming from different perspectives, but
yep.
yeah, having the grace and the love and respect for each other to allow that, and to go, okay, well, that's fantastic and good for
Yep.
you, and
Yep.
let's rejoice what you're doing. So rather
Yep.
than
That's it.
sitting in judgment, yeah, I just think
Yeah,
from
and
from
trying
an
to somehow
energetic,
defend.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Like,
you defending our own actions as well. Like, why do we need
yeah.
to do that? Yeah,
That's it. Exactly. No, no, that's true, Billy. Like it really is. It's in many ways too. That I mean, symbolically, if you look at this new moon, there is that call there to, you know, realize that we have got our perspective, we've got our knowledge, we've got what we know, we've got our belief, we've got our position, but it's being able to look look above your glasses and pay attention beyond what we are. Have a look at what someone else truly is, rather than seeing it through a filter of your established beliefs or your established outlook. And sometimes that, in doing that, it provides that space. It gives you that space so that you're not sort of having to defend your position or maintain your territory, or kind of somehow justify where you're at in it all. If you can actually just look beyond yourself and see where they're at, it actually, in a way, yeah, it's quite affirming. It's quite like, well, it kind of consolidates more your own unique position. And it's, yeah, it doesn't actually become an operation of me versus you, or us and them, or whatever. Like, and it's still, obviously still there's discernment required, and it's not all rainbows and sunshine. But at the end of the day, it takes you out of that conflict. That sort of, and hopefully from these times ahead, we will get that ability to safely assert ourselves, or safely speak our position, or safely kind of, articulate who we are in the world again, without actually, being absolutely lost in some quagmire of, instituted narratives, or, virtue signaling, or whatever goes on in the world today. Like, to actually just comfortably and safely feel as though that we can be ourself, rather than having to sort of conform to an external perceived pressure. It to keep rambling a little bit, Billy, but like, it's interesting with the tech age, and with the way things are going so rapidly, and it's almost like, if you look at the world, so much is going on so quickly, and say with AI and tech, and just governance generally, and all these decisions being made, and lots of different thought constructs coming up. So in one way, this sort of rapidly evolving situation, um, if we find that there's all these things going on that actually affect our life, but yet we have no say in it. Someone I was reading the other day put it into energetic terms, where if the material world is moving beyond our determined view of the material world, and we have no, tangible input into how to integrate that, or process that, or feel in any way that, part of it, then from an energetic level, that the difference then, rather than it being an adaptive evolutionary energy, it just becomes radiation. It just becomes radioactive, and
Yeah.
like, and it becomes damaging. Like, we get sort of, there's so much energy being structured and projected, at or around us, whether it be literally from, towers, satellites, or whatever, or even just, energetically through formation of new structures, or governance, or principles, or all these types of things. And then to remove from that our ability to, interact with that, and safely kind of find ourselves, somehow relative to that. In other words, to not just feel totally impinged by it, or put upon by it. It's quite akin to being just lit up by radiation. Like, and so I don't know. I thought that was an interesting view that I was reading of someone's the other day. Like,
Yeah, well,
there's,
that's
we just
right.
live in this radioactive world, that if we're not careful, we can become sort of overly agitated by it, or over, like, if you put I don't know, something in the microwave oven, not that you would, but like, say, like a microwave oven, just external frequencies and fields and energies and operations that we feel that we can't in any way have a say of, but yet they affect us, is radioactive, and it's
Yep.
agitating, and we get hot, and we get irritated, and cellular changes take place. So
Yeah.
it's the type of thing. It's a,
Absolutely,
yeah,
and that
it's
well, that really aligns with so much that's going on as far as speaking to many people. There is a feeling of survival out there, and when a human being's in survival, we backs against the wall, we dig our heels in, we go into the
yep,
trenches. It's us versus them. I'm
yep,
in it for me, and yeah, and that toxicity, or that radioactive, that explains it beautifully, doesn't it? Really,
yeah,
and to be able
yeah,
to have that awareness, like to move or shift or change, you have to have an awareness of where things are at, and
that's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
to be able to acknowledge that, and then to make some conscious decisions and some choices
Yeah.
to move back into who we are individually, and
Yep.
that, and
Sort
then
of
we
approach, yeah, be able to approach the energy, more harmoniously, like find our balance in it rather than just being sort of knocked off balance by it, or, sort of have sort of be able to create our point of reference,
yeah,
in amongst that. Yeah. Like
absolutely.
that is an aspect, for this new moon, like Mars, in the new moon, there is a really, kind of challenging, but an invitation in a way. Mars forms a really harmonious aspect to Venus and Saturn. So, we've got this lovely opportunity to form really nice, transformative relationships, and there'll be this opportunity to sort of bring manifest things in our life that are constructive and stabilizing and supportive. So, new offers, new people, new relationships, new potential to actually put things in place that serve us. So it's a very positive new moon in that way. But like at the same time, that Mars is in square to Chiron, so we've sort of got this tension of um, being able to express ourselves, or being able to feel confident enough to stand in our own truth, or so in other words, there is this potential sense there that we're up against the wall, or being kind of abraded by the external, like, and having to survive and defend and all those types of things. But really, in its highest expression, it's about working out what we need and asserting our needs and feeling safe in putting our needs forward for ourselves. Not like we have to go out into the world and broadcast it, but just recognizing this is what gives me security. This is my home. This is my home base. And in the past, I may not have spoken up for that, or may not have put that first, but now I'm going to. Why couldn't I put that first? Why can't I, sort of make my needs known? Why can't I put that out there? And like, so I suppose there is that aspect in this new moon where, yeah, we've got an opportunity to heal on that level, and sort of bring that into some sort of tangible thing. I made a few notes here, like our inner wounds will come up, but like trust your strength. You don't have to be the alpha dog. You don't have to sort of dominate or prove yourself. You can actually just be comfortable and safe in your own operation. You can just be yourself, basically. You don't have to prove yourself. Watch out for defensiveness or territorialism in that. Like you can be safe in knowing that you are in your own space. It's only when we compare ourselves to something, or pit ourselves against something, or buy into the invitation of somebody saying that you're up against me. So watch out for comparison, watch out for competitiveness, like just watch out for that in favor of, does it work for me, or does it make me feel secure? Like, what do I need? Do I have to do that, or do I need it? No, I don't. So what? See you later. It's that type of thing. So, and yeah, it just, there is an urge there basically to trailblaze as well. Just walk your own path, be yourself essentially, and try and sort of just watch out for all the trappings of those perceived um, perceived points of balance in favor of what actually gives you balance. In other
Yes.
words,
Yeah, and
yeah,
finding that internal, or your self balance, then
yeah.
that sort of permeates outwards, doesn't it?
From that,
Yeah,
it does,
rather
Billy.
than trying to find the peace or all the answers externally, yeah, look within, get that balance within yourself, have that
Yeah,
awareness. Like you said, we don't have to fight, or be in protection of our home or who we are, or defend who we are. There's
yeah,
many people out there that would like to tell you what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to act and everything else, but
yeah.
they're coming from their perspective. That's more reflected of who they are and what they're doing. Yeah,
Mm,
the strength and the beautiful essence and energy when we do go within and find out who we are, and be not staunch, but say, right, this is who I am. I'm happy with who I am, and I respect you for having a difference of opinion, but
that's
that's
it.
okay. We're not against each other. How can I help you?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, how
right.
can
Yeah,
you? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So we
Yep.
are. Yeah. Well,
Yep.
that sounds like we're really sort of moving and
It,
shifting into that
oh,
new
we yeah,
energy.
moving into that new era. Like, I mean, and there will be. I mean, there will be. this, when you look at that energy, like on another level, Mars in Cancer, like Cancer is a nation, like Cancer is I guess is home, home. And so, like if we look globally, and I guess Chiron in Aries is the injury of war, so like I mean, underpinning this Mars square Cancer, like it feels at times like the world is just unsafe because of war and conflict and all those types of things. Like they're going on and they're real, like I mean that's happening, so like from this too you can appreciate too, like just the futility of it, like the like where is the justice in that, like and from that we can hopefully as a collective, like go, well, gosh, home is important. Like home is, everyone has the right to home, everyone has the right to safety, everyone has the right to be themselves, like I mean, who gives another party the right to do that? Like so it's sort of it's raising this awareness around I guess just that level of safety and individuality and aggression versus security and all those types of things. So like if you're very sensitive, it could to realize that there is a lot of disturbance at the level of security and aggression and war and damage and harm and pain, all that sort of stuff is really caught up in this aspect as well. And that's sort of going on in this new moon. And it's weird that as we come up to the full moon, that aspect, we're going to have the moon full on Chiron in Aries. So, if we had to pick an aspect that's going to really start to express itself in its full expression for this month, the full moon's right on Chiron Aries, which is square again to that Mars. So like it's sort of that's a big theme for this month is safety and danger and assertiveness and security and injury and harm of if you think of those energies, when we take that onto a personal level, it's just feeling, working out where our inner sense of security is, where our inner sense of calm is, how we can allow ourselves to create safe boundaries, in how we interact in the world, and not to be brought into conflict to find the justice point or the harmony point between our needs and those of others. And it's that real sort of, I think on a spiritual level, it's that, because Jupiter's right at the top of the chart here. It's being able to communicate. It's being able to communicate our beliefs. It's being able to, to stand in our truth and do so without conflict, or do so without need to dominate or aggress or anything like that. But again, that's the human condition, isn't it, Billy?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, that's the bigger evolutionary picture of like, well, what are we up to? What are we doing here?
yeah,
And I think that's sort of, when we get into these bigger outer planets of Pluto moving into Aquarius and Neptune moving into Aries, and I think moving forward we're gonna really start to have to answer these questions, like,
yeah.
and find the right answers for them
And
so that
that
we as people can be better.
that might feel uncomfortable too for some, if you're holding on too tight to your beliefs and to what you believe, and you're not
Mm.
willing to look within and make some changes and a shift and ha-
Yeah,
dive deep and go, well,
yeah,
all my truths, all my beliefs, are they real, are they right? And
yeah.
yeah, there
Are they
might be
biased?
there might
Are
be an
they?
uncomfortableness within that shift into, like, individually.
Yep,
Yeah, because change is not, for a lot of people, change is not
mm,
something that people welcome generally. They like status quo. They like to just keep motoring along each day in. But
yep,
what have we subtly shifted, um, over
mm,
years, decades, in our lifetime?
yep,
So it's not, yeah, to make that change now might feel uncomfortable because it's it's like using different muscles. It might be a bit sore for a little while, but yeah,
yep.
keep
That's it.
diving in. I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, yep,
absolutely. And I mean that in a way, that's that Libran sense of justice comes from that. Like I mean, we might feel that we're balanced, but compared to something else, we're biased in one way or we're biased in another way. Like there's all manner of bias going on in the world, and you know, our own bias is our own perspective, like and sometimes, confrontation or conflict, Mars kind of, that's brought into balance when our perceived equilibrium, kind of is shown as being biased or out of balance in relation to something else. And really, at the end of the day, there's no necessarily right or wrong, but there's harmony and there's fairness and there's right human relations and there's those types of things. So like this is really is that fundamental Venusian energy and like it's about transforming into a greater sense of harmony. And I suppose with Venus, the ruler of this new moon in Scorpio, it really is about transforming and breaking down old structures of relationship or interaction or even our old structures of harmony in order to arrive at a greater, more empowered sense of enduring harmony or enduring value or equilibrium, that type of thing. So however that takes place is individual, but like essentially that's the process. And like, it'll be an interesting month.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
as it is always. So
As
I love
always.
the astrological cohesion, like everything you've mentioned today, Martin, so beautifully. Like you talking into next year, we've only sort of tapped into that a little bit, but
Oh,
how
yeah.
each month, which each new moon, each full moon, each planet going into retrograde,
Yeah.
everything
Just
all sort of going together in its sort of
the
little map.
process.
The
Yeah, it's a
process.
beautiful evolutionary process. Like, I mean, this moon in so many ways is a preparatory for the next new moon, which is a preparatory for the one after that, which is leading up. I mean, next year, just as a bit of a glimmer forward, but like next year, we've got this, quite epic. I mean, not that every month at the moment is not bloody epic. Like we are in very, very unique times, Billy. Like it's exceptional times that we find ourselves in, from an astrological, but like just a worldly perspective. But like the next year, there's this 35-year cycle which started back in 1989. So Neptune and Saturn do this 35-year cycle. I think we spoke about it before, but like next year they're coming together, not in Capricorn, but in Aries. So we've got this ginormous paradigm shift of I guess reality Saturn and ideology Neptune, this dance that they form over 35 years instead of the underpinning fabric of our left and right brain matrix being Capricornian, where God is structure and reality is the hierarchy, it's going to turn into Aries, which is the self, assertiveness, the individual, the I am, the emergence of new action and initiating new paths and things like that. So in other words, what we've been the mindset we've all been ensconced in for 35 years is going to change. And like so, in many ways the growing pains that we'd be experiencing and the fusions and the breaking of energy and ties and I guess the tension that's forming is this shift away from the rigidities and the confines of a hexagonal sort of hive mind, architecture of being into one that's sort of it's Martian. It stands for what's right. It's active. It's just. It's the individual, and in many ways that is so alien or so different to the world we find ourselves in up until now. But the processes that we're in are very much, if you do have a day where you think, oh my God, this is just too much, like take a breather because it's like it's okay. Like the energy we're in is just absolutely cataclysmic. Like we're shifting from a one whole paradigm to another, and that involves different rules, different regulations, different. And when I say rules, I mean universal rules. Ways that things work, and like as people, we're undergoing a very new retooling, if you like, or a reorientation, so that we can actually participate in this new mindset. And in many ways too, the generations that have just come into this planet, they're all geared up for it. They're all set up for it. Whereas the generations that might have been around for a little bit longer are finding themselves in a very adaptogenic sort of way of being. So, it really is about just giving yourself the peace of mind and letting it ride and rolling with the punches and being open to change
Open to
and
change.
sort of being flexible, like those types of things,
Yeah,
because
and
it's a ginormous paradigm shift coming,
absolutely,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
and
I'm not even coming. We're in it.
we're
We're
in
in
it.
it.
We're in the
Yeah.
midst of it, aren't we? Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's
like
it.
the power of silence, the power of the pause. If you're on a raft and you're in a river and it's all wild and you're going up and down, you're getting capsized and you're going all over the place, then
Yeah.
feel free to jump off and just sit on the
Yeah.
bank of the river for a little bit and just watch
Yeah.
it all
That's
pass
it.
you.
Watch it go by. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw this lovely
rather than
meme.
go down the
Yeah.
500-foot waterfall that's going to kill you. Just
That's
it's
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. It's so true. So true. And I mean, yeah, you just go with the flow. Give yourself time. You don't have to. Sometimes you can pause, and that is the virtue of Libra is finding the pause, finding the balance. Like in many ways, disease or dis-ease is either a case of excess or deficiency.
Right.
And really, if you look at homeostasis or if you look at health or well-being, it's harmony. It's a state of being sort of in balance. And balance has a range. Obviously, there's this end of the range and that end of the range, and our bodies can kind of keep it together if we're somewhere in the middle or somewhere in that range. But really, it requires being in the range, and sometimes it's saying no or saying less, or don't fill the gaps, or don't try and insert yourself to keep everyone cool. Just keep yourself cool,
Yeah.
like look after yourself, like
Exactly.
keep comfortable, yeah, as
Beautiful.
well. Yeah,
Beautiful.
totally.
All
Yeah,
right.
but yeah,
That's
no, it should be a good month, Billy. Yeah.
beautiful. That's a wonderful note to finish on, Martin. We could keep talking, obviously, as we
Oh,
both know.
absolutely. Yes.
um,
But learning when to wrap it up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. No,
Mate, thank
it's been a
thank you
pleasure,
so
Billy. Thanks for
thank you
having
so
me.
much
Yeah.
for joining me, and you've been enlightening and full of information, and I always love that you're coming from the heart space as well, and I
Thanks,
hope
Billy.
everyone out there listening gets a lot out of what you're talking about. So
No, thanks, Billy.
I
And I
thank
was going
you.
to say, it's a good opportunity to give a plug. We do sessions, astrology sessions, personal growth, all those types of things. Arcanum Vita at arcanumvita.com.au. I'm just getting better at the plug, Billy.
Oh,
I've just got to put
absolutely. We've got to
it
do it.
in.
Yeah, yeah. No, and
Billy,
I would welcome. I've had sessions with Martin. That's how we first met, and it's incredibly enlightening. You get so much out of Martin's sessions. You'll be overwhelmed. You won't be underwhelmed. You'll be he's
cool.
chock full of
Thanks, Billy.
information, and that's what got us started, wasn't it? Like for me personally, having those astrology sessions with you, just recognizing how incredibly detailed and accurate they are to our personalities and where we're going. So
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah,
to
once
it.
you understand that energy at work, it makes it so much different. It makes it
Abs-
so much easier to navigate
oh,
sometimes.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah. When we have
totally.
that awareness, absolutely.
Awesome. No, but thank
Yeah.
you, Billy. Thank
All
you.
right.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Martin. We'll talk to you again soon. And all the best for everyone and blessings. Take
Yep.
care.
Thank you. Cheers.